Alright, so on this tutorial I am going to show you what it looks like now that I have cut out the piece and I have serged the edges of the insert, and I did it in a contrasting color just so you can see it better. Normally I would have done a blue or a black that would match the denim a little bit better, but you wouldn't be able to see it as much. So I went ahead and cut, and here's what the insert looks like. Nothing special. And I did not serge the bottom of this yet because I will do that when I hem and serge the bottom all the way around once the front and the back is done. I have found one of the tips that I would suggest is when working with this skirt, I would do the back first and then work on the front, only because when you do the front first, it's pretty narrow and it will close up your skirt so you can't maneuver it as much. So I would recommend doing the back first because it's a wider panel, and so by the time you do the front, then it will be better and a little bit easier to maneuver if you do it in reverse. So work on the back first and then go ahead to the front. So I will show you now how to insert it and pin it, and then the next step is to sew it. And to I told you guys I would show you what I use to sew with, and this is the thread I use. Nothing too special. It's Gutermann, and it's number 887. And this is actually denim thread. So most of the time it's a perfect match. However, I noticed on this one the threading on the pants are actually a little lighter, but they don't really have that many colors. I think it's this color and then the denim blue. I will use this for some of the top stitching. However, some I will also be using the denim blue, which I will show you later. And then my needles, nothing special, just a universal denim needle, and it will say on the front right there, jean. And I use these and switch out my serger universal needles and use denim, and I also put it into my sewing machine so they all have the same needle, so it's not running hard on my machine. Alright, so here we go, inserting the middle piece. Again, put something down if you're working from your ironing board, which I would recommend. It's just an easier, because it keeps your skirt in the natural position where it's narrow at the top and it flares out at the bottom. And I have it still pinned from last time, the back part of it, just so it keeps its shape and I'm not moving it too much and stretching it. And then I pull it down, and if it extends a little past the skirt edges, it's okay, because when you're gonna hem it, that will all be hidden, or in my case when I serge it, it will be cut off and sewn, so it will blend very nicely. And then now you just start pinning it. And I know a lot of people will tend to pin like this. However, when you're sewing, it's actually more proper for you to pin this way. And it's easy to take out your pins. And so my first pin I put right here where it will catch the insert, the left and the right side. Just like that. And then you just start pinning down the sides. And if you're still not too comfortable with sewing, I would recommend more pins. The more pins you have, the better. However, I've gotten to the point now where I don't need to use as many. One day I probably will not even have to pin it. That will be really great because I hate pinning. And then when you pin the other side, kind of stagger them between the other side so you're not running into the other one, especially up in this part right here. So if you stagger them, instead of putting pins right across from each other. And then be careful when you pull it to replace it, so you're not going to get weird bubbles or waves in your panel. Put one more here, just so you can see how I stagger them. So on this one, it's going to be there. Plus, when you put it in the machine, you're going to be shifting the middle piece a little bit. So that's another good reason to use a lot of pins if you're not still familiar with your sewing machine. And again, put a board underneath or anything that won't catch a pin. Or in the beginning, you'll be like me where I pinned my ironing board. And if you could hear, I have my daughter yelling up at me, so we'll probably get interrupted for a minute. And just pin all the way down.
Mommy.
What, sweetie? And remember to pull and stretch a little bit just to make sure. Hold on, sweetie.
Okay. What are you doing?
I'm making a skirt for you.
Ah, that's cool.
Okay, so now that it's all pinned, I'm going to take it and sew. And I'm going to start, let's see, zoom in on this. So I will start up here. Remember to always back stitch to lock your stitch in place. You won't want this to pull out. That would be bad, especially on kids, because they're going to be stretching and pulling on their skirts. And what I do is I start up here and I sew and I follow here. I always start with the first outside just because then it will hold it in place. So I start and I sew down this long line here and pivot my needle and then follow this line, stitching between whatever you're comfortable with, but I would say no less than 1/8 of an inch, but no more than 1/4 of an inch. For beginners, I would recommend probably 1/4 of an inch. And the more straighter your stitches get and more consistent, I would move it to 1/8 of an inch. And then what I will do next is come over here and I will start right at the seam allowance here, and I will do 1/8 of an inch all the way down to the end. And then once you do that, then you go back and do your second stitching. You don't have to, it's not a necessity, but I love the look, plus it will blend in with the front and the back, how they have the double stitches here. So you start off here and just sew and follow that line, and then I back stitch here, and then I lift the needle, cut the threads, lift the needle, and then start over here and then follow down here. And it's been a while since I've made this, so I will let you know in the next tutorial what the space is between the first stitch I do and the second stitch. I'm thinking it's about a half an inch, but I will let you know. And if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to ask. This is what it's going to look like on the inside. Nice clean edges. And again, you don't have to serge. This project does not require a serger. But since I have it, I use it and I love it. If you don't have the serger, the only thing that will happen is your edges, when you wash it, will fray. But it will not fray past your stitches. So wherever you stitch is where the fringe will stop. Same thing with when you hem or don't hem the edge here. Even if you want the fray down here, I would still recommend doing about a 1/4 inch straight stitch all the way around when you're finished, because then over time it will fray, but it will not go above your straight stitch. Okay, and that is, I think, video number 3.
Pick up. Pick up. Pick up.